what you're thinking. A knitted wedding dress? Really? I'm optimistic it will knit up quickly, but that may be visual thinking. Knit back and forth for ages. I'm using some math and plenty of improvisation to create something that will hopefully be just right for me. Letting you follow along would be more fun for everyone. Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of my knitting podcast. My name is Mari, and I'm a knitter and maker based in beautiful Bergen. Here, I sew, knit, and create garments that brings me joy and fit seamlessly into my life. For me, patterns are more suggestion than rules. I love tweaking them and making garments that suits my life and wardrobe. In this podcast, I want to share what I'm working on, how I make each piece my own, and hopefully inspire you to create something that brings you happiness. And maybe step outside the pattern and make it unique. In this episode, I'll cover one finished object, 5 works in projects, including a new cast-on, some exciting acquisitions, and my most worn knits for January. I hope you find inspiration and ideas to fuel your knitting journey. Let's start with what I'm wearing today. This is one of my favorite projects from last year. And what a joy it has been. It's called Flaten Kofte, designed by Cardigan. And of course, I made a few adjustments to make it my own. First, I adjusted the gauge to make it a bit airier. I find that Nordic stranded colorwork knitting can feel quite dense. But using a rustic wool like fino, knitting it at the looser gauge is easy while still achieving a beautiful colorwork fabric. Plus, an area gauge knits up faster, always a bonus. I also shortened the cardigan slightly so it pairs perfectly with tailored trousers at the office. The buttons are another detail I love. I found them at a local yarn shop and they truly elevate the cardigan, giving it that extra special touch. This sweater is entirely knit in fino, 100% Norwegian wool I adore. It's light, warm, and softens beautifully after washing. I've gotten so much joy from wearing it, and it's quickly become one of my wardrobe staples. Let's get started with my finished objects. I have just finished my José hood. It is a fusion of a warm hood and a soft scarf. With the hood down, it functions as a beautiful scarf tied with delicate I-cord bows. With the hood up, it keeps my head warm and out of the rain. This clever design is by Kristen Nørgaard of Norgard Knitters. I used 2 yarns for this project, Isager Alpaca 1 and Isager Öko Baby. Isager Alpaca 1 is an ultra-thin 2-ply yarn from 100% alpaca. I used the shade E7 and needed 2 balls for this project since the meterage is 400 meters per 50 grams. Isager Öko Baby is a luxurious blend of 68% baby alpaca and 32% organic Prima cotton. I used 5 balls in the shade E8, each with a meterage of 150 meters per 50 grams. I knit my José hood on 4.5 mm Chai-Gu needles, although the pattern recommends 5 mm needles. Since I tend to knit loosely, I typically size down to meet gauge. So, my José hood is worked from the top down. The top section is knit first, and then stitches are picked up alongside the edges. The hood is shaped by knitting back and forth with increases along the front edges to gradually transition the shape from a hood to a scarf. I-cord neatly finishes the edges and create ties at each end. I do not often wear beanies, so this was my attempt at creating a stylish alternative. Living in a rainy city, I hope this piece will save me on cold, wet days. It was important to me that it looks beautiful even when the hood isn't up, and it keeps my ears covered regardless. I use it as a regular shawl and put the hood up whenever it's needed. So, let's dive into my whips. The first one, the Klippesjerf, or cut-it scarf, is a playful mini course on how to knit a scarf that looks perfectly ordinary but is constructed in a much more exciting way than the usual knit back and forth for ages. The pattern is by Marte of Lagerlapp. Her Lagerlapp project is impressive. It offers pattern construction in unconventional ways and encourages knitters to adopt the design and use the yarn they already have. Her sign and patterns are currently available in Norwegian at lagerlapp.no. I started this project by knitting an I-cord and picking up the stitches along the edge. From there, I knitted outward on one side, and once that section is complete, I repeated the process on the other side. And what I will do next is, when it's finished, I will unravel one section of the knitting and then cut into it. Cutting into knitting is always a little scary, but it will work since the stitches only unravel vertically, not sideways. To be extra sure, I even made a small test swatch to practice the technique before casting on the full-size project. I'm using Rauma Finull, a 2-ply carded yarn made of 100% Norwegian wool for this project. Finull creates a light, airy and warm garments that hold their shape well and become softer after washing. Each skein contains 175 meter per 50 grams. I've chosen the colors 4886, 434, 4206 and 4135. I'm already on my second and third skeins of each color. I'm knitting this one on 4.5mm needles, even though the yarn is fingering weight. However, I plan to slightly felt the finished piece to make it denser while keeping it large and warm. I'm also working on a dress. And this project is exactly my kind of knitting. I'm using some math and plenty of improvisation to create something that will hopefully be just right for me. I started with a vest pattern as my base and as a guide for the construction, but I've altered both the structure and the gauge, so there's not much of the original pattern left now. At the moment, it's on its way to becoming a finished vest. The plan is to pick up stitches along the bottom edge, calculate how much I need to fit my hips, and then knit downwards until I run out of yarn. I'm knitting this entirely from stash, and this is what I'm going to use. I use the Isager Highland wool. This yarn is spun from Peruvian sheep wool and feature beautifully blended colors achieved by dyeing the wool before spinning. The meterage is 550 meters per 100 grams, and I'm using the shade Wine. I'm also using Isager Tweed, a single-ply yarn from 70% wool and 30% mohair. It has a slightly rustic homespun look, but remains soft with the lovely sheen from the mohair. The meter is 500 meters per 100 grams, and I'm using the color Wine. And this is a very special skein of yarn. Garnsur was a Norwegian indie dyer collective that worked with immigrant and minority women to help them gain employment experience. This yarn were hand-dyed with care and creativity, and I feel so lucky to still have some in my stash. I'm knitting on 6mm needles, achieving a gauge of 13 stitches per 10 centimeters. My calculations show that I'll need to increase 40 centimeters for the hips to get the right amount of positive ease for the skirt, meaning I need to increase 52 stitches. I'm increasing in both directions at 6 places. This means I'll work 4 increase rows over the next 20 centimeters. Okay, so I realize I have a lot of project going on, but we're working our way down the pile. The next one is the September jacket by Petite Knit. The September jacket is by Petite Knit and is knit top down in brioche stitch, using 1 strand of Sunday and 2 strands of thin silk mohair from Senna's garn. However, I've chosen to knit mine using double strands of modem yarn dyed by La Bien-Nuit. I've chosen this yarn partly because I already had it in my stash and partly because I want a slightly firmer look for the jacket. For the yarn, Mondem is a non-superwash fingering weight yarn made from fine Portuguese wool. It's named after a Portuguese village known for its sock knitting. Mondem is one of my favorite yarns for knitting texture pieces. It's spun tightly enough to create excellent stitch definition while maintaining the charm of untreated wool. A perfect balance for me. The meterage is 375 meters per 100 grams. I've chosen the Santoki colorway from La Bien-Nuit. It's a gorgeous gray with brown speckles, and I love how the brown looks even more natural knit with double strands. This details adds depth and character to the fabric, making it subtle yet eye-catching. This project is currently progressing beautifully. The fabric created by the brioche stitch and this yarn combination feels sturdy yet soft, and I'm thrilled with how the texture and the color are coming together. Now for perhaps the most important project of the year. I'm knitting my own wedding dress. I'm getting married in May, and the idea of creating a hand-knitted gown is both thrilling and nerve-wracking. I know what you're thinking. A knitted wedding dress? Really? I had my doubts too, but a few years ago, I saw Veronica Lindberg of Kutowakika in a stunning gown and thought, you know what? Why not? Her dress inspired me, but I'm designing my own pattern to make it uniquely mine. So I've already knitted the dress section from the knee down this summer just to test my abilities. Since the skirt contains a lot of fabric, I figured if I could manage that, the rest would be doable too. I approached it with a bit of trial and error, casting on an approximately number of stitches and increasing evenly as I knit downwards. I mixed a few lace patterns I like, a few rows of Camilla Vad's magnolia motifs combined with dahlia leaves from Lena Holm Samsø's design. The result is something I'm really proud of, so much that I just have to keep on going. I've also knitted a sample to be confident in my design. You can see that I plan to knit a slightly fitted dress down to the knees with a bit of volume at the bottom, creating a kind of a mermaid silhouette. The actual dress will obviously be white, but when I was making a mock-up, I wanted to be able to use it. Even though it's shorter than the white dress I'm making, it's still an all-over lace dress that requires a lot of work. My next step is to cast on the bodice. It will feature contiguous shoulders and a slightly open neckline, both in the front and in the back. I plan to make slightly puffed sleeves and a lace panel on the torso. I'm really eager to get started on the next part. So I chose Sandnes Sunday for this project because I wanted wool yarn. Wool allows me to use slightly larger needles while ensuring the lace work will bloom beautifully, keeping the dress as lightweight as possible. I settled on Sunday because it's easy to source, has a refined appearance, and comes in a lovely pure white shade, which is perfect for the occasion. I'm knitting this one on 3.5mm needles, achieving a gauge of 23 stitches per 10 centimeters. I debated whether to share this project as it unfolds or wait until the dress is complete. Ultimately, I decided letting you follow along would be more fun for everyone. To my last project, that is also a new cast on. The Dori vest by Rauma is this short vest with a round neckline and side ties in brioche stitch. The fit is straight, it's worked top down and starting with the back piece worked flat with increases in shaping for the shoulders. Then stitches are picked up alongside the shoulders. Finally, the neckband and armhole edges are picked up and knit in ribbing. The pattern recommends a needle size of 4.5mm needles, but I've chosen my trusty Chagu 4mm needles since I knit loosely. For the yarn, I'm using Rauma Fever, a 2-ply carded yarn spun from the finest fibers of Norwegian lambs. It's the softest spun, creating light, airy, and warm garments. Despite its softness, it's a rustic wool, so keep that in mind if you have sensitivities. The meterage is 175 meters per 50 grams, and I'm knitting in the color 9, a deep navy blue. This yarn was purchased specifically for this project. I'm optimistic it will knit up quickly, but that may be visual thinking. Either way, I can't wait to wear it over a shirt paired with tailored trousers for a polished work look. So, over to my acquisitions. I've made a few yarn purchases this month. I picked up the yarn for the Dori vest. Both the yarn and the patterns were bought at a local yarn shop in Bergen that opened this fall, Strikk in Steinkjelleren. It's a lovely store that stocks the yarns from Rauma and Isager, among others. It's worth a visit. This shop is tucked away in one of Bergen's most charming streets. I also had to supplement my yarn for the September jacket. I didn't have enough in my stash, so I purchased 3 extra skeins of Imro dyed by La Bien-Aimée in the colorway Santoki. Supplementing yarn is always a little nerve-wracking, especially when it's hand-dyed. Unfortunately, there is a noticeable difference in dye lots for me, but I have a plan. I'll use 1 strand of the new yarn and 1 strand of the old yarn and alternate skeins if necessary. If I'm lucky, I might not need to alternate them too much, but I'm confident it will turn out beautifully. While I was already placing an order with La Bien-Aimée, I couldn't resist adding a little treat. A beautiful mohair yarn. I choose Amy's Peaches and Dreams, a custom color and a collaboration with The Wandering Flock. This mohair silk blend is 80% kid mohair and 20% silk with a meterage of 365 meters per 100 grams. The peachy rainbow color is stunning and perfectly showcases the unique dyeing style of the Wandering Flock team while still showing off Amy's beautiful dyeing skills. I'm unsure what this will become, but there's enough for a short sweater or a blouse. I might pair it with another strand of yarn, perhaps a white, soft pink or peach. Whatever it becomes, I'm sure it will be a fun project down the road. For my knits and use segment, at the end of the episode, I wanted to dedicate it to pieces I've been wearing the most. My knitting philosophy is all about creating garments I'll use often, even if that means adapting and modifying patterns. This part will help me keep track of what gets used and also gives you a glimpse into my daily life and hopefully some knitwear inspiration. January has been cold and wet. My José hood has been a lifesaver on the accessories front. It's kept my neck warm and saved my hair from surprise rain or snow. Unusual for me, I've also been wearing a beanie. Siri's enkle lue or Siri's simple beanie. I typically don't wear beanies, but the snow in January made it necessary. This pattern, and it's one that I love, it doesn't require worrying about gauge or yarn choices. You just have to start knitting with whatever you have on hand, and it works out beautifully. On the sweater front, the Ingrid sweater has been my go-to, which is no surprise for me. It is a pattern by Petite Knit. I knit mine using Vidde yarn from Hillesvåg. Vidde is a lamb's wool blend spun from white lamb's wool and grey pelt wool. The result is a softly heathered yarn, available in 38 dyed colors plus natural grays. It's loosely spun, has excellent elasticity, and holds up well in finished garments. What makes this sweater such a favorite is how easy it is to wear. It's warm and pairs with everything, and the texture stitch pattern adds something special. It's polished enough for the office even without a colored shirt underneath. Another favorite I've been wearing this month is the Nordic Mix sweater by Laura Dalgaard. I'm thrilled to wear this now that it's cold. Since it's a colorwork piece knit in fairly thick yarn, it can get warm quickly. I adore it though, especially the combination of pink and orange yarns. I've used 2 yarns for this sweater, Sannes Double Sunday in pink and Raima Fivel in orange. I modified the pattern, shortening the body slightly. To do this, I calculated the number of rows to remove based on the row gauge, divided by 10 and multiplied by the length I wanted to subtract. Then I spaced the reductions evenly throughout the pattern. This tweak has made it a much better fit for my wardrobe. Thank you so much for joining me for this very first episode. If you have made it all the way to the end, leave a little broccoli emoji in the comments. I'll know you're one of my very few first viewers. I'm very grateful that you are here. I'd love to hear what's on your needles or if you've discovered any new yarns. Let's keep this a space for sharing and inspiring each other. I'll be back in a few weeks with another podcast episode and some other knitting related videos before that. So don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks again for watching and keep knitting what brings you joy in life.